We've known now for more than a year that developing a state budget for fiscal year 2010 would be challenging to undertake. The country's in recession and revenues are down. But what lawmakers hadn't originally planned for was an estimated $4 billion in federal stimulus money. Missouri decided to take the money, but how that'll affect the budget is still not totally clear. In this week's commentary, Jason Rosenbaum delves into the complicated process of developing a spending plan.
It's tough to say no to a party. In the most conventional sense, parties offer an ability to unwind, relax, and forget about the looming threat of emo vampires. For people under the age of 21, these shindigs can include, but are not limited to, balloon animals, clowns, cake, ice cream, and piñatas full of delicious candy. But unless you're a bassist for a hair metal band or one of those aforementioned emo vampires, all parties must come to an end. And for the host, these events require shelling out loads of money, breaking up massive cake-throwing fights, and mopping up after all the guests have gone home. But still, it's tough to say no to a party, especially when there's going to be balloon animals. Now, I know most of my commentaries are just elaborate metaphors derived from my relatively mundane life, but not this week. Instead, I'm building on a metaphor from Scott Roop, a Republican state senator from Wentzville, who might have caught a glimpse of the future when discussing how to divvy up Missouri's stimulus money. Roop wondered aloud whether it would be wise to even accept the funds, especially when the federal government forced some of the cash to be used on reoccurring expenses. I think a real good discussion has to come up of, do we even want to go to the dance, Roop told reporters. The discussion about whether to take federal stimulus money is essentially over, as Missouri decided to jump headfirst into President Barack Obama's plan. Yet legislators have used the weakening economy to pose deep questions about how governmental resources should be allocated. For example, some Republicans in the House are philosophically opposed to using stimulus money for what they see as ongoing expenses. This stand has not necessarily been absolute, as House budget writers are planning to give stimulus funds to keep St. Louis's metro system running and to get more public defenders hired. But it's the type of thinking that prompted notable and at times unpopular budget cuts during the House process. The stimulus isn't the only factor driving this fiscal discussion. A group of state senators are demanding changes to the way tax credits are allocated, especially one incentive aimed at improving old buildings. But these lawmakers arguing for austerity are drawing opposition. State senators, for example, passed a new version of the budget last week that infuses hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stimulus money into the operating budget. They say stimulus funds were allocated in a way that can be cut if the economy doesn't recover. And a bipartisan group of lawmakers have been resistant to make changes to the historic preservation tax credit, arguing passionately about the economic benefit that comes from refurbishing structures. And there's still time in the legislative session to determine which fiscal side will prevail. But as Senator Brad Lager noted, going against funding popular proposals can spark a backlash. He told me, when you're flush with money and there's spending sprees out there, you don't have philosophical debates. You just kind of buy everybody off. Now it's like, wait a minute, we don't have the money to do all this stuff. It's time to start prioritizing. In other words, it's tough to say no to a party. I'm Jason Rosenbaum.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Talking Politics. Podcasts of this show and all our shows are available on our website at kbia.org. I'm Sarah Whitmire.